we do have a very special guest in the room with us, Mr. Kevin Davitt. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I love that very special guest stuff. Love it. Never gets old.
You are.
Yes, nice. Thank you, that. We're going to fill that pause. Thank you. Well, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm telling every time you're here, the Nasdaq of what day? I feel like every time.
I'm going to have to talk to my superiors on that one, see if we can get on here more frequently. But really, what I was thinking, listening to the segment before and seeing that top 20, is how many of those names are either directly, in the case of TQQQ, or somewhat indirectly, but pretty closely, the SOXL, the triple levered semis related to the Nasdaq 100. And then you got names like the ones you just mentioned, SpaceX and Tesla, Micron, Intel, AMD. Those are the names that really dominated the narrative in Q2. And I think have pushed some index vol dynamics to interesting levels. And I'm using that word intentionally, that we'll get to, but really, I mean, I don't think it's me. I think it's a compelling market.
I think it's you.
Yeah.
When we did the CBOE floor stuff, we were down like 80 points every day, 100 points. I'm like, it's got to be us. It has to be, right?
He's wild. I know, right? Just about every day we were down there.
But no, it's crazy.
It just has been crazy. And it's been you're starting to see a little bit of a rotation sometimes. At least I noticed it on Friday. A lot of the semis got sold off. They went and flew to buying healthcare names, buying some consumer defensive names. And I think that's a good thing. I think that speaks to the fact that all these people who say it's going to be like 2000 and the dot-com era and we're going to get this huge something. No, I don't think so. I mean, so far I haven't seen anything that would indicate that.
Those same people have been saying stuff like that since then. And I'm not trying to minimize the potential for real pullbacks, but things are so different. And the names that make up all these major indices, S&Ps and the Nasdaq 100, are making money. You were just talking about the cash pile at a company like Microsoft, or I heard it earlier this morning. It is different in so many ways. Now, they have had significant moves higher and markets can normalize, but what the catalyst for that is, I don't think is just going to be cascading risk lower.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a busy week for you guys. There's a big ADR IPO coming this week.
Yeah, I am interested. I have followed SK Hynix and like the Samsung and what's going on in Korea all year. I do think that there is a correlation with what we see in the Nasdaq 100 in terms of price and volatility. They are tapping into U.S. equity markets, raising money and making it easier for U.S. investors to access a really sort of unique environment in memory and semis. And I am going to be fascinated to see, one, the appetite. I mean, we're talking about a nearly $30 billion raise. Yep. And granted, SpaceX dwarfed that a couple weeks back, but historically speaking, that's bigger than Saudi Aramco, what used to be the second largest. So this is the world we're in, and they are a big player, and it moves with some velocity, and we'll see how that impacts broader markets.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. And it feels like the season of IPOs. Like, that's just what it is.
Fact. Yeah, a good thing for Nasdaq, undoubtedly. I saw one of the headers up there. You were talking about OpenAI and Anthropic potentially this year should be, or maybe into next year, really, really meaningful for, being able to tap large cap U.S. equities in a very direct way. And we have seen the growth in private markets in recent years. I think this is a healthy thing and sort of an element of rotation to that too, right? Broader accessibility is a good thing. And that's driven so much of the options growth in recent years. Good stuff.
Yeah, all good all around.
So you got some slides for us, I believe.
I do.
Let's take a look.
Great.
I love the visuals. I love the slides.
I like something to talk to, and I do believe that visuals can tell a compelling story without me yapping away. this one is just broader. Like, you guys know, I care about the continued growth of NDX options, and that continues to be the case. This is quarterly volumes going back to 2022. Over that time window, average daily volumes are up something like fourfold. So we are outpacing even like the most well-known index products. And specific to Apex, the back end for Tasty, there has been very, very meaningful growth both this year and last quarter. So grateful for that. Hopefully it continues. But really, that I do think is a testament to interest in the names that are driving the market at a broad level and being able to manage that risk, whether it is 1 day, 1 week, or longer term.
I mean, what this is quarter by quarter, right?
Yeah.
What's that quarter where there was basically the 50% jump from like 60 to like 90? I mean, that was enormous, man. Like that
Where are we looking at there? I think it was.
Q2
5 to
Well, yeah, okay. So you saw
Q3 2025. That was
Q2 25 was the only quarter where there was a quarter over quarter decline over this whatever 4-year period. You're talking about the tariff time frame there.
Yep.
And then rebounds and really, yeah, when that happens, we see a significant pickup, and it has been driven primarily by retail, a lot of short dated spread trading, and we continue to see that this year.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, NDX, we've been trading it. We actually, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about NDX and potential downside moves I put on a 300-point butterfly. I was just looking at that right now. It's still relatively cheap. The 11-day cycle, just looking at the expected move around 28.7, the same 300-point wide, so 29,000, 28.7, 28.4 is like $1,300 with a max profit of 28K. So like if you get a reversal of today's move, this is probably a $500-$600 winner just in the 11-day cycle. But the further out in time you go, the cheaper it can get. But I like using this as a hedge against the overall market because I have so many bullish positions in the single name stocks that I think just getting that holistic downside hedge there. And if you do get a 1 day or 2 day move to the downside, it can be a really nice hedge.
We were talking the other day about how well I think you explain the use cases, and that's a perfect example. I got a whole bunch of bullish exposure elsewhere. What about something to offset that in dollar terms hopefully isn't a real significant loss, because generally you probably want the market to go higher. Mm-hmm. But that opportunity to sort of tweak your exposure using things like a butterfly, I'm friendly to that, and I love the way you guys explain it. But the bigger picture point about expected moves speaks to this next visual. And we have seen a significant divergence between expected moves in the S&Ps and expected moves in the Nasdaq 100. And I think there's a couple of different ways you can illustrate that visually. This one, I'm looking at VXN divided by VIX. So the ratio, we're up to, it's tough to see on that right-hand side, but we're up to a 77% premium as of end of last week. Now, comp periods are somewhat interesting. Big, somewhat similar move in 2017. Now, there you're talking about a very low base year for VIX, but what you also saw was a period of significant outperformance on the part of mega cap tech in the middle of 2017, and you're seeing a similar dynamic this year. I don't think the corollary to early 2007 or going way back to 2002 is relevant in 2026, but the parlay is so much of the move and risk has been concentrated in a relatively limited number of names that have outsized more significant exposure in NDX. I looked like to put this in more concrete terms at 30-day puts in NDX and the S&Ps. And I was looking at August 7th cycle options. And you could go down and sell an 8.5% out of the money NDX put. Now, this was over the weekend, so I was accounting for like the Friday move, but it was something like 26,800, somewhere in that neighborhood. And buy 4 to sort of notionally adjust for your exposure. S&P put, same expiration. You're going 4.5% out of the money on those. I forget the exact number. I had it written down, and I'm not going to pull it out of my pocket right now. But net, you would still be taking in 100 points. So just recapping there, I'm going out 8.5% in NDX. I am notionally adjusting my exposure in SPX. So I'm selling NDX, I'm buying SPX, I'm selling 8.5% out of the money. I am buying 4.5% out of the money, and I am net collecting real premium. Something like that is interesting. When you see an unusual vol dynamic, what is our risk in this situation? Broadly speaking, the risk is a highly correlated sell-off. Something like we saw, whether it was tariffs or Iran earlier this year. I also think this could be expressed because you got to have your big boy pants on for a position like that in XND and XSP. Now, the caveat there is that you would actually need to trade 2.5 times the XND for each XSP, but that is a much more approachable sort of risk dynamic for most retail traders. Long story short, volatility at the macro level remains pretty calm because you see software is pulling things down, semis rallying, or vice versa. Net, the index doesn't move a whole lot. But the divergence at the index level is significant, and the market is pricing significantly greater volatility in NDX relative to the S&Ps. We'll see if that's warranted in the coming weeks.
I like it. And yeah, it plays into that perfectly where you're selling that undefined risk premium in the heightened volatility product, and then you're inventorying some downside delta but also give you a nice gamma explosion if you do get a big move to the downside, because you have notionally equivalent but multiplication in terms of delta.
Correct.
You can only pick up 100 deltas on your downside put. That has a lot more volatility and it's hedging you anyways, but those SPX puts can balloon up to 400 deltas. So.
You explaining these concepts so well, man. You took like 15 seconds. I'm over here yammering away for 2.5 minutes. Well done. I believe the other visual I have is kind of an extension of that, and it's correlation. So what's going on here? The implied correlation in NDX is significantly higher than what we see in the S&P. So again, this is based on option pricing. It is forecast based using 1-month options. How much correlation do we see at the index level relative to the constituents? So net, what that's telling you is NDX index vol is high relative to S&Ps when you aggregate or compare that to the constituents. Somewhat similar relationships historically. Again, things kind of changed in 2017. Then you see a big move higher in late 20, early 2021. A whole lot of risk on in that environment. Back when NVIDIA really took off and like people were going to bars to watch earnings as opposed to World Cup games.
I mean, what was that? 23? 24?
Like okay. July 2024, I believe, when it really took off. Yeah, time flies, right? And more recently. So again, thinking dynamically, considering related products to manage risk, considering offsetting sort of deltas in the single name space with an index, I think makes sense. And really, I believe that NDX is in many situations, given that top 20 list that Marty just went through, perhaps the best corollary for that balance.
Yeah, I think the heightened correlation only helps you if you're trying to use a product like NDX as a hedge, because if something happens, you are getting a higher probability that what you expect to happen will happen, where you could have a situation where like the S&Ps you expect to be down, but they're not because energy products are ripping higher or something like that.
Good example. Or financials.
Exactly.
Yep.
Where Nasdaq is much more concentrated, which is good if you're using it for directional exposure and speculating or hedging, however you need to.
Yep.
Yes.
The last thing I had a visual, and really it was your colleagues that whipped this thing up, but it's about the SK Hynix coming to market later this week. I do think that's something that should be on radars. Maybe it's probably not going to get quite the attention that SpaceX or potential future IPOs get, but it is really kind of maybe not the epicenter, but right on the periphery of the names like Micron that have really sort of dominated swings day to day and plays such a significant role in things like the SOXL, TQQQ. So understanding that dynamic and having other names that perhaps you could either express a view or offset some risk is valuable. And again, it's a testament to people wanting access to U.S. markets. They function well. This is great. Happy 250.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the names that we've been talking about a lot, even though it doesn't trade here. We've been talking about its moves overnight in Korea, and it's been one of those that's been participating as part of this rally that we've seen in semi. So it's going to be game on.
It's been like the lead. You see what these things, what Samsung, what Hynix did overnight, and it's like, all right, that explains what I'm seeing pre-market in the U.S. and we continue to see this global handoff. I don't think that's changing, and really U.S. markets are the epicenter of where I think that risk is managed.
Love it. Well, appreciate your time, Kevin.
My pleasure.
Good to see you, Kev.